You've been told to be strong, to never let anyone see the cracks in your armor. You've been conditioned to believe that showing your softer side will only push people away, that it makes you weak, unattractive, even needy. So you build walls, you smile when you're hurting, you keep quiet when something matters. You pretend you're fine when deep down you're not. But what if I told you the very thing you've been hiding, your vulnerability, is the key that makes someone want to stay, the very thing that makes you magnetic, unforgettable, and impossible to replace? Think about it. The people who have touched your heart the most weren't perfect. They weren't flawless. They weren't hiding behind a mask of strength. They were real. Maybe it was a friend who admitted they were scared of losing you. Maybe it was a partner who confessed they didn't know all the answers, but wanted to figure them out with you. Maybe it was the moment someone cried in front of you, and you realized that their tears didn't make you respect them less. It made you love them more. Vulnerability doesn't push people away. Pretending you don't feel anything does. The truth is, most of us are terrified of letting someone close enough to see the parts we keep hidden. You worry that if you show your insecurities, they'll run. You're scared that if you speak your needs, you'll sound demanding. You're afraid that if you let them know how deeply you care, they'll take advantage. So you hold back, you stay guarded, you think you're protecting yourself. But really, you're starving the connection of oxygen. Because love cannot breathe behind walls. Here's what no one told you. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is strength. It takes courage to reveal who you really are, when you don't know if someone will embrace you or reject you. It takes guts to look someone in the eye and say, this is me, this is how I feel, this is what I want. And when you do, something magical happens. Instead of driving people away, you give them a reason to lean closer. Vulnerability is irresistible because it's human, and nothing is more attractive than someone who has the courage to be real. You've seen it yourself. Think about the person who tries to act like nothing affects them. They never admit when they're wrong. They never share what scares them. They never show emotion. Do they pull you in, or do they feel distant, untouchable, hard to connect with? Now compare that to someone who opens up about their fears, who tells you when they miss you, who admits they don't have it all figured out but still want to try with you. You feel closer to them. You feel safe with them. You feel like you can breathe around them. That's the power you unlock when you let down your walls. The problem is, most people confuse vulnerability with oversharing. They think it means dumping all their pain on someone, or confessing every insecurity in one breath, or begging for reassurance over and over again. That's not vulnerability. That's desperation. Vulnerability isn't about proving you're worthy. It's about allowing yourself to be seen without the performance, without the armor, without the script. It's about letting someone experience the truth of you, instead of the image you've curated. Imagine this. You're on a date, and instead of trying to impress them with a perfect story, you admit that you were nervous about meeting them. You tell them that you had butterflies on the way over. That tiny piece of honesty doesn't make you look weak. It makes you relatable. It makes you human. It makes you memorable. Or think about when you're in a relationship, and instead of pretending you're fine when you're upset, you calmly admit, I felt hurt when that happened, because it mattered to me. That's not drama. That's emotional courage. And the person who truly cares about you will feel more connected to you in that moment than if you had swallowed your feelings and kept quiet. Here's where it gets even deeper. When you show vulnerability, you give others permission to do the same. You create a safe space where they don't have to perform either. Suddenly, walls come down on both sides. And what you're left with is intimacy. The kind of intimacy that doesn't fade when the excitement wears off. The kind of intimacy that makes someone want to stay long after the spark. Because sparks come and go. But the feeling of being truly seen, truly accepted, truly safe, that's what makes people hold on. And this is where your fear starts to melt. You think being vulnerable means giving away power, but it's the opposite. When you own your feelings, when you can speak them without shame, you are unshakable. No one can use your truth against you, because you've already embraced it. Imagine how magnetic you become when you're not hiding, when you're not pretending, when you're not scared of being real. That's when people can't stop thinking about you. That's when they trust you. That's when you become unforgettable. You've probably felt it before, the the pull towards someone who just has this presence, this openness, this comfort in their own skin. You don't know why, but you can't stop wanting to be around them. That's vulnerability at work. They're not trying to be perfect. They're not trying to impress you. They're letting you feel them. And in a world full of masks, that's rare. That's powerful. That's irresistible. And maybe right now you're wondering, how do I actually do this without scaring someone off? How do I balance honesty with strength? How do I show vulnerability in a way that draws someone closer instead of pushing them away? The answer is closer than you think. You start by remembering that vulnerability isn't about spilling everything at once. It's about choosing the moments where your honesty can build connection instead of eroding it. Think about the last time you felt close to someone. Chances are, it wasn't because they told you a flawless story about their achievements. It was because they let you glimpse their heart. Maybe they admitted they were scared of losing something important. Maybe they revealed how much they cared even when it left them open to rejection. Those moments felt real. Those moments stuck. The first step for you is to shift your perspective. Stop seeing vulnerability as a risk and start seeing it as an invitation. Every time you let someone see the real you, you invite them into your world. You say without words, I trust you with this piece of me. And trust is the foundation of love. Without it, relationships stay shallow. With it, they grow roots that nothing can easily shake. But here's where you need to be careful. Vulnerability doesn't mean giving away your power. It doesn't mean saying, I need you to validate me, or I'll fall apart. That kind of energy doesn't create attraction. It creates pressure. The difference is this. True vulnerability is grounded. It's when you can share your feelings from a place of strength, not from a place of begging. Imagine telling someone, I really like you, and I enjoy how I feel when we're together. That's vulnerable, but it's not weak, because it doesn't say, and if you don't feel the same, I'm broke. It says, this is my truth, and I'm confident enough to stand in it, no matter how you respond. That kind of vulnerability is magnetic. It's about balance. You don't have to expose every scar. You don't have to unload every insecurity. What makes you irresistible is the willingness to let yourself be seen in the moments that matter. When you miss someone, you say it. When something bothers you, you share it. When you're excited about something, you let your joy show. Those small openings invite the other person into your reality. And when they step inside, they feel closer to you. The reason this works is because it touches a hidden need inside every human being. The need to feel safe being ourselves. When you model that courage, you give the person you're with permission to do the same. Suddenly, instead of two people pretending, you have two people being real. And when two people are real, that's when sparks turn into fire. That's when attraction turns into intimacy. And that's when love becomes lasting. Picture this. You're with someone, and instead of brushing off your feelings with, it's fine, you pause and say, I felt a little hurt when that happened. You say it calmly, without blame, just as true. In that moment, you show two things. First, that you value yourself enough to speak your feelings. And second, that you trust them enough to share it. That combination is incredibly attractive. It makes the other person want to rise to meet you, to respect you, to show up for you. Here's another example. You're falling for someone, and instead of playing it cool, instead of hiding your excitement because you don't want to look desperate, you allow yourself to smile, to admit, I love being around you. That one sentence has more power than 100 perfectly calculated lines. Because it's not performance, it's truth. And people feel truth. And when they feel it, they lean in. Because in a world where everyone is trying to protect themselves, the one who dares to be real becomes unforgettable. You're not just another person playing the game, you're the one who makes them feel alive. Of course, you'll always hear the voice of fear. It will whisper, what if they don't feel the same? What if they take advantage of my openness? What if they leave me exposed? And yes, that's possible. Vulnerability does carry risk, but here's the reality. You can't avoid pain by hiding. You only avoid connection. The walls you think are protecting you are also suffocating you. They keep out rejection, but they also keep out love. And in the end, which costs more, the sting of rejection or the ache of never being truly known? You already know the answer. Love is worth the risk. Connection is worth the courage. And here's the secret. When you practice vulnerability in the right way, the risk becomes smaller than you think. Because you stop needing anyone else's reaction to define your worth. You stop saying, I'll only feel good if they accept me. Instead, you begin to live in the power of your truth. You say, this is who I am, this is what I feel, this is what I want, and whether they embrace it or not, you stand tall. That's when you become untouchable. That's when your vulnerability transforms into strength. Imagine how different your relationships become when you embody this. Instead of guessing what the other person wants, you share what you want. Instead of pretending you don't care, you let them know you do. Instead of swallowing hurt, you express it in a way that invites understanding. Suddenly, you're not in relationships built on guessing games and masks. You're in relationships built on honesty and trust. And trust me, that's what people crave. Because here's something no one admits. Everyone is starving for someone real. We're surrounded by filters, by performance, by half-truths and highlight reels. People are desperate for something genuine, for a person they can actually feel. And when you become that person, the one who's brave enough to be vulnerable, you stand out instantly. You don't have to chase, you don't have to prove, you simply have to be. And people will be drawn to you like gravity. And maybe the most powerful part is this. Vulnerability doesn't just attract others, it transforms you. When you stop hiding, when you allow yourself to be seen, you discover parts of yourself you've been suppressing. You realize you don't have to be perfect to be loved. You don't have to be flawless to be worthy. You just have to be human, open, honest. That realization doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see yourself. And that, more than anything, makes you radiant. So the next time you feel the urge to hide, remember this. Your strength is not in your armor. Your strength is in your courage to lay it down. And every time you do, you don't lose value. You gain it. Because the truth is irresistible. And the truth is, and here's where everything begins to shift for you. Because now you see that vulnerability isn't just about letting someone into your feelings. It's also about how you show up in their world. Think about how magnetic it feels when someone makes you feel safe enough to open up. That sense of safety doesn't come from perfection. It comes from presence, from the way they listen, from the way they hold space for you without judgment, from the way they allow you to be messy, complicated, human. You can become that person too. And when you do, something extraordinary happens. Your relationships stop being a battlefield of ego and start becoming a sanctuary of truth. When you carry this energy, you no longer need to control the outcome. You don't need to play games. You don't need to manipulate. You don't need to pretend, because you understand that the right person doesn't fall for your mask. They fall for your heart, and the only way they can ever reach your heart is if you show. That shift takes you out of scarcity and into abundance. You stop clinging. You stop chasing. You stop fearing that if you're not perfect, you'll lose. Instead, you realize that the very thing you were most afraid to reveal is the thing that makes you unforgettable. But here's the paradox. The more you own your vulnerability, the more powerful you feel. Why? Because you're no longer defined by someone else's approval. You stop measuring your worth by whether they accept your honesty. You begin to see that the act of revealing yourself without shame, without apology, is already a victory. It means you're living fully. It means you're standing in truth. And people sense that. They sense the confidence underneath your openness. They feel the courage beneath your softness. That combination, strength and openness together, is the ultimate form of attraction. Imagine this. You're with someone and they expect you to keep playing it cool. Instead, you look them in the eye and say, I really enjoy being with you, and I don't want to pretend otherwise. Do you know what happens in that moment? You shatter the script. You catch them off guard, not because you've confessed something outrageous, but because you've confessed something real. In a world where everyone is busy protecting themselves, your honesty is like fresh air, and it makes you stand out. Or picture when something hurts you. Most people would either explode in anger or bury it in silence. But you take a different path. You say, I felt hurt when that happened, because I care about. That statement does two things at once. It reveals your heart, and it anchors it in strength. You're not begging, you're not accusing, you're inviting. You're saying, I care enough to be real with you, and I trust you enough to let you see it. That moment is intimacy in action. That's how connections deepen instead of dissolve. And here's the hidden beauty. Vulnerability doesn't just pull people in, it filters them out. When you reveal your truth, you quickly see who can handle it and who cannot. Some people will step closer, drawn to your courage, inspired by your honesty. Others will pull away, uncomfortable with the intensity of realness. And that's a gift, because it saves you from wasting time on those who were never ready for the depth you deserve. Vulnerability doesn't just create attraction, it reveals alignment. This is where you stop chasing validation and start claiming your worth. Because every time you show up vulnerable, you send a silent message. I am enough as I am. I am not here to impress. I am here to connect. That message is irresistible to the right people, and it's repellent to the wrong ones. Which means vulnerability isn't just emotional, it's strategic. It protects your heart by showing you early on who's worthy of it. And you know what else it does? It transforms fear into freedom. You've been living with the fear of being too much, too needy, too emotional. But when you practice vulnerability with confidence, that fear flips. Suddenly you realize that your emotions are not chains. They're guides. They're signals pointing you to what matters. When you express them, you're not burdening anyone. You're leading. You're showing the way to deeper connection. Think of the last time someone admitted something vulnerable to you. Maybe they said they were nervous. Maybe they admitted they were afraid of losing you. Did you feel disgusted? Or did you feel closer? Did you feel pushed away? Or did you feel honored to be trusted with something so real? Most likely it drew you in. And that's exactly how others feel when you do the same. Vulnerability invites people into your world in a way nothing else can. The truth is, we're all craving it. We're craving someone who doesn't hide behind endless strength. We're craving someone who has the courage to say, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm here. I care. I'm willing. And when you become that person, you stop being an option and start becoming a priority. Because in a world where everyone is pretending, you are the one who dares to live in truth. But let me take you even deeper. Vulnerability isn't just about sharing emotions. It's about allowing your desires to be known. So many relationships fail because people are too afraid to say what they truly want. They dance around it. They hope the other person will guess. They suppress their needs until they turn into resentment. But when you own your vulnerability, you break that cycle. You can look someone in the eye and say, I want closeness. I want consistency. I want to build something real. And instead of scaring them off, it attracts the kind of person who's looking for the same. That's how vulnerability becomes irresistible. It doesn't just connect you emotionally, it aligns you relationally. It weeds out the players and draws in the partners. It shows you quickly and clearly who has the capacity to meet you where you are. And that saves you years of guessing, doubting, and settling. Now think about the freedom in that. No more second guessing yourself. No more wondering if you're too much. No more wasting time hiding your feelings just to keep the peace. Instead, you live in truth. And in truth, you thrive. You realize that you don't have to shrink to be loved. You don't have to pretend to be strong all the time. You don't have to deny your heart just to keep someone interested. You can be you, fully, openly, unapologetically, and the right person will not only stay, they'll be captivated. Because the reality is, attraction built on performance always fades. But attraction built on vulnerability, that's the kind that endures. That's the kind that grows deeper with time. That's the kind that turns a connection into a commitment. So here you are, standing on the edge of a choice. You can keep hiding, keep pretending, keep holding back your truth out of fear, or you can step into vulnerability, not as weakness, not as desperation, but as strength. And when you do, you'll discover that the thing you feared most, the exposure, the risk, the possibility of rejection, was never your enemy. It was your path, to the very thing you've been searching for all along: real, lasting, irresistible love. And this is where everything you've been learning comes together. You begin to see vulnerability not as a momentary act, but as a way of living, a way of loving, a way of showing up in every interaction. Because it's not just about confessing feelings, it's about the energy you carry into your relationships. The energy that says, I am here as I am, and that is enough. When you embrace vulnerability fully, your entire presence changes. You stop walking into connections with a mask on, hoping someone will fall for the version of you you've created. Instead, you walk in as yourself, and that shift is magnetic. It makes people breathe easier around you. It makes them feel safe to drop their own guard. And when two people can exist without armor, without pretense, without fear of judgment, that's where love takes root and grows into something unshakable. But let's be clear, being vulnerable doesn't mean you're careless with your heart. It doesn't mean you reveal everything to everyone. It means you are intentional. You choose to show your truth in the moments that matter, with the people who've earned the right to hear it. You don't confuse vulnerability with oversharing. You understand that true intimacy isn't built by flooding someone with every detail of your pain. It's built by letting them see the parts of you that actually connect to the relationship you're creating together. So what does that look like in practice? It looks like expressing when you're excited without toning it down. It looks like saying, I missed you, instead of pretending you didn't notice their absence. It looks like letting someone know, I care about this, and it matters to me, instead of burying your feelings just to keep the peace. It looks like choosing honesty over silence, even when your voice shakes. These are not grand gestures, they're small, daily acts of courage. But those small acts are what build the foundation of a love that lasts. And here's something you may not have realized: vulnerability doesn't just make you attractive, it makes you unforgettable. Long after someone has met countless other people, they'll remember the one who made them feel deeply. They'll remember the one who wasn't afraid to show their heart. They'll remember the one who gave them a space where they could be real. Because no matter how many sparks we chase, no matter how many faces we see, the soul never forgets where it felt safe. You might still feel that pull of fear. What if they reject me? What if they walk away? What if I give my heart and it breaks? And yes, that fear never disappears completely. But here's the truth: love without risk isn't love at all. Vulnerability is the price of intimacy, but it's also the reward. Because even if someone walks away, you walk away with your integrity intact. You walk away knowing you showed up fully. You walk away knowing you didn't hide, you didn't hold back. You didn't cheat yourself out of the chance to experience something real. And that self-respect, that strength, stays with you long after. And the irony: the more you live this way, the less you fear rejection. Because rejection stops being proof that you're unworthy. It becomes proof that you were brave. It becomes a sign that you dared to show up honestly, and that you deserve someone who can meet you at that level. You stop seeing it as a loss and start seeing it as alignment. Vulnerability teaches you that not everyone will stay, and that's okay. Because the ones who are meant to, the ones who are capable of meeting you in truth, they won't just stay, they'll hold on tighter. This is how you begin to rewrite your love story. Instead of chasing, instead of shrinking, instead of pretending, you show up as you. And the people who are meant for you, they will find you irresistible. Not because you're flawless, not because you have all the answers, but because you have the courage to be real. That courage is rare. That courage is magnetic. That courage is what makes you unforgettable. And here's the final secret: vulnerability is not just about being loved, it's about being free. Free from the weight of pretending, free from the constant fear of being too much, free from the endless cycle of trying to earn your worth. When you stand in your truth, when you live without hiding, you don't just create deeper connections, you create a deeper life. You begin to experience relationships not as a game to be won, but as an expression of who you truly are. And that authenticity doesn't just attract love, it sustains it. So from this moment forward, ask yourself, where have I been hiding? Where have I been shrinking? Where have I been guarding my heart so tightly that no one can reach it? And then little by little, choose to open. Choose to speak the truth instead of swallowing it. Choose to admit what you feel instead of masking it. Choose to let someone see the humanity in you, the joy, the fear, the love, the longing. Because that is where the magic lives. And when you do, you'll discover that the thing you thought would push people away, the thing you've been taught to suppress, the thing you've been scared to reveal, is actually the very thing that makes people lean in. Vulnerability doesn't make you replaceable. It makes you irreplaceable. It makes you the one they can't forget, the one they trust, the one they choose again and again. Because at the end of the day, no one falls in love with your mask. They fall in love with your heart. And your heart is never more beautiful, never more powerful, never more irresistible than when it's vulnerable.